Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broken Beautiful Me Stories of Hope, Gratitude, and this. Today, I am so fortunate to have as our guest Amber Williams. Building relationships and helping others has always been at the forefront of Amber's life. She's been a registered nurse for 20 years this year and recently obtained a dual health and life coach certification. Since her husband's death in 2021, she has grown in ways she never could have expected. Learning how to live through the loss and finding hope and healing helped turn her grief into recovery. She now uses these experiences to help others living through loss. Amber, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the invitation to be here. Thank you.
So, first, to just kind of jump in and start out for our listeners who maybe don't know a little bit about your background, well, can you just kind of provide us with a little overview?
Sure, will do. And in case you're hearing in the background, that is my cat, not a child. I learned
Just do them.
oh, oh, I know. Oh, now she wants to be on my lap. Okay. But
That's
and
well,
okay, well, we'll see how this goes. But with the cats, yeah, I've been uh, my husband died almost 3 years ago, and before that, I was a nurse. I've been an oncology nurse. I have been an oncology nurse educator. I'm about ready to start going back into nursing education. And that's just all been like what I do. And, but who I am is somebody who helps people. And whether that is through my nursing career or now through coaching, that is where that's where I am or who I am. And um, that's, with the grief, that's where I've been able to recover from it, which was something that I didn't realize I was going to be able to do. Um, and yeah, it's a weird thought because, I was telling somebody the other day that we I recovered after my grandma died, after actually all of my grandparents have died now. Um, so why wouldn't I be able to recover and heal after the loss of my husband? It's a different relationship, sure, but I did, I was able to, and I have been. And so I want to share that with other people, um, through the grief coaching, grief recovery coaching, actually.
yeah. I mean, I think too is that uh, it becomes so much more tangible and possible when you have someone who is bringing not only the professional experience, but the personal experience with me as well. There's something about that, okay, they've been there. And so you must really feel that responsibility when you talk to them about your grief.
Yeah, I excuse me. I think people do reach out to me because of the fact that I've been so vocal about my grief recovery, my grief journey. And and so they want to talk with somebody who has been there. And uh, whether or not it's me offering advice, which I do sometimes, but other times it's just to be there to listen and because they know that I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and sometimes just knowing that someone gets it is just all the support that we really need, right? Because when we lose someone, there's no magic words that make things better. So sometimes just that presence of you just being there and you can kind of walk with you is so impactful, more impactful than words can be.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you transition from kind of bedside nursing and now you're a grief coach. You said you're going to go back into nursing education.
Mhm.
How has that background in nursing influenced your approach to helping others cope with loss? Because I know we both have a background in oncology nursing. And so loss is very much a part of, well, it's part of any side nursing really. But you do people are faced with immortality usually diagnosis. So how is that kind of bridged together that be that experience for you?
It it's an interesting, combination, because I when I was a chemotherapy nurse, so I spent 8 years administering chemo, and you really get to know your patients. You kind of get to know their caregivers, whether it's a spouse or a child or a parent who's coming with them. And I, at this point, would, if I could go back in time, I would spend more time with the caregivers, the people who are coming in with the patients, um, because I've been there. I've been on that side of the bed, of the chair, and, you know, there's just mm, we need that. We need, you know, as the as that caregiver, we need that relationship with our providers, whether it's nurses or physicians. And as a coach now, I can be with the caregivers, the ones who were caring for their person who is now gone. And so, yeah, that's where I am right now.
That's so beautiful because you're so right that, and I think actually if I was to think back on my time in oncology nursing, I probably would have done the same. It's try to spend a little more time with those caregivers. Um, People are learning as like in terms of just the health profession in general. If people are learning about how important that holistic approach, like to the whole family system is, are we getting?
Very slowly, maybe.
Yeah,
And I think for some nurses and providers that it's more natural
yeah.
to some than others. And and for those who where it does come naturally, I would love to see them teaching others how to do this. You know, be the role model, be the leader in your department, and show people how they can be better with caring for the caregivers. Um,
Uh,
and
I agree.
yeah,
Go ahead.
uh, well, so the day before Carl died, he had to be intubated, and I was in the room when it was just the two of us when he started having problems breathing, and um, I couldn't find anyone out in the hallway. Like, I had the call light on. I was all gowned up because he was septic, and so I couldn't leave his room wearing, everything that I had on. Um, and when people finally came in, then it was, I kinda got pushed to the side, and then it was, "Amber, you're gonna have to leave. Just go out to the waiting room and, we'll come get you when things have settled down."
Mhm.
I walked out by myself. I sat in the waiting room for over 2 hours by myself, um, crying, calling people on the phone. It was a Saturday, so there was no one else in the waiting room. Um, and so it was, yeah, just that experience alone tells me how important it is. Like, even if the unit clerk, the receptionist, if that
Yeah.
person would have come out, give me some water, something to to recognize that I was by myself, that would have been helpful. This was still during the time of COVID, and so other I couldn't have other visitors come in to see him. Well, his brother was allowed to, but he would have come with his wife, so it was, yeah, it was just something that I will never forget, and I want to do better. That's what it is.
And then you as an educator, you have the power to invent, right? So really
Oh, yeah.
to really they like this was my personal experience, and as an educator, I want to show you how to do this differently. I mean, it's an opportunity. I mean, unfortunately, you had to experience that, and I'm so sorry. I know that must have been the longest 2 hours of your life.
It was it was a good amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. but hopefully we can help educate people about the importance of making sure the family is supported because, that's it's just something that I think, and it's of no fault of the healthcare team. We both know when everybody has an activity, right?
Yep.
But it is, I think is you feel like it's more of an integrating that into the normal um, process of an event. Like when I think about, I have better healthcare experiences, oncology being one, but I also work in ICU and emerge. And one of you have when you have a code is it's all protocols, right? It's just
Yep.
all protocols. It's like ABC, you just follow that map. But for good reason, we have not involved put on the map support the people. And maybe that's just how we need to evolve. We need to have that as part of a definitive protocol because it is that important.
And I will say that when he coded in the ER, several days before that, I, uh, I had walked out of the restroom and all I could see was the doctor giving him chest compressions. It felt like the entire ER was in his room. Crash part was right there. And the first person who came over to me was a social worker. And so they did have that as part of their protocol, uh, to have, you know, a chaplain and a social worker available to me. When we would have in the clinic, when I was doing chemo, we would have as part of the protocol, the chaplain, if they were there that
Yeah.
day, they would come up. Usually there was some type of social worker or a case manager who would come up and help uh, with the family.
Yeah.
But yes,
Good to hear. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so in your experience, how does grief kind of present itself across a variety of cultures and how do you coach through that? Because, there are different cultural things that and belief systems. And so how do you coach a person you think?
So, excuse me. It first starts with having them tell their story. I want to know, you know, who is it that they've lost? Tell me about this person. I want to know their name. Who are we talking about? And I think when we start to tell our stories, even from the beginning, we don't recognize it, but that's the beginning of healing is
Yeah.
by talking about our person. And so that's what I want to start with right there. Um, Moving forward, it's really, what do they need? Are they, um, are they having financial problems? Then we can talk about the financial aspect of it. Are they just not able to get out of bed? You know, those kinds of things. How are we going to, make plans for going through the day? Um, and I think that can transcend through all of cultures. You know, every person is going to have a different response to grief initially. Some people are going to be so shocked that they don't even know what happened. Um, and then others are going to try to, move through it because how many of the companies that we work for have a 3 or 5 day or maybe even less bereavement period.
Yeah.
Oh, your mom died and next week I'll see you back in the office.
Yeah.
We can't do it that way. Um, I was so blessed to have a a manager who said, well, actually, I didn't show up to work the next week. So she called me Monday morning and said, well, I told you at the funeral that I didn't know when I'd be back. So in my mind, it was just, I'll show up when I show up. you know? That was my response to my, to my employer. And so she said, "Well, you really need to go through the whole FMLA process, contact your doctor and, you know, find out, just kind of work through that and then the
Yeah.
FML team." And so I did. And my nurse practitioner eh, gave me almost 6 weeks off after he died. Um, those she said, "Amber is not returning to work until whatever that Monday was before Thanksgiving." So he died October 10th,
Yeah.
and, you know, and whatever that was, till Thanksgiving. And then after that, she wrote another form for me to be able to take off 3 days every month as, as needed. They could not be consecutive days. Um, but if I needed a mental health day, then I had the paperwork to show it. Um, and, granted, I had worked there for 14, eh, I forget how many years. It had been more than 10 years at that point. And so I had my ill time built up. Not everybody has that available to them, so it would be non-paid or you just burn through any ill time. But I did have that. And so that's how I was able to manage going back to work.
Yeah. With a very supportive manager, and then it sounds like a nurse practitioner can just really got it about what was needed.
Oh, she was so on the ball. Like, I, I mean, yeah, she was amazing. And when I thought that I needed an antidepressant, uh, in January, I didn't know what was going on. It was so horrible in my head. And I contacted her and I said, "I think I need something for the depression." And she said, "Oh, give it the weekend and call me next week. I'll see you next week." And so I did. And, it was something that was transient. So it didn't
Mhm.
last for long. Um, and I'm so grateful. To this day, I haven't needed to take the antidepressants. And she never prescribed them for me. Um, and I think it was because of the way that she handled that that, I was able to see, okay, I am going to get through this. I don't have to take the medications. But doggone it, I was all ready for them. I have, you know, no judgment whatsoever for the people who need them. It is, you know, people do need them. And I, yeah, so it's, that might be another cultural thing too. Do we take it? Do we not? What's available?
I shortly after I lost my son, I had to go to a doctor's appointment for just a thyroid check. They did it 6 months, and my blood pressure was in here, and she said, "Oh, your blood pressure is a little elevated. Is anything going on in your life?" And I just burst into tears, of course. Um, and she said, "Let me talk to you about it." And she immediately mentioned medication.
Mhm.
And this was like literally I think it was 2 to 3 weeks after treating the house. And you are so right that sometimes medication are needed and when they are, they are completely appropriate. We shouldn't shy away from them at all. Um, but I remember looking at her and saying, "But I'm not depressed. I'm breathing, and there's a big difference." And so it really takes like your your practitioner was truly a champion for you because she said, "Take a breath, and then this too shall pass. Give yourself the weekend and then see where we are." She wasn't closing the door to that, but she
Right.
said, "Let's just see what internally where you are in 2 days." And I think that that's um, such a well informed approach to someone who is legitimately, emotionally struggling after such, but also being very pragmatic about prescribing medications that maybe you don't need. I mean, I think that's the kind of practitioner you want to have in that situation. Um, that's because a lot of people don't necessarily feel like they have the strength to take a few days. Um, and of course, you and I, we have the benefit of having that bit of medical knowledge in the background, so that we have more agency ourselves, I guess, to speak up. Um, so, how has your perspective on mental health changed over time because of your personal experiences, because of the professional experiences that you have seen and the families that you've met along the way? How has it shifted for you? Because all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but you are now going to be um, coaching in a very important role. So, what did you see shifting that you needed to make a change and help others?
Hmm, that's an interesting question. I would say that uh, therapy is very important. Um, you know, if you feel like you need the therapy, get the therapy. Even if
Mhm.
you don't feel like you need the therapy, you should probably get it. I did not. I probably should have. Um, I did. I went through a grief share program at our church. It's a national organization. Are you familiar with it?
I am. Wow. It's a
So
beautiful book.
it is. Interestingly, Carl and I were facilitators for it
Oh my goodness.
for years before he died. Yeah. And so we went through, I think, 3 different sessions. They're 13-week programs, 12-week programs, I forget. Um, where yeah, so we went through 3 different sessions as facilitators, and then COVID happened, and then he died the next year. And so in 22, I went back as a participant. And let me tell you, I have a whole new appreciation for having facilitators who have really been through it. Uh, we had some facilitators who, I mean, bless their hearts, they were there. They were listening to our stories, and there were just times where it was like, yeah, you don't really get it. And so it was kind of interesting. Um, but back to mental health, do the support groups, do um, get a therapist. As a coach, I am not a therapist. And so what I see my role as is helping the person live through the loss. We're not going, I'm not going to be, well, obviously I cannot prescribe any kinds of medications. Um, I also cannot, you know, diagnose uh, any type, I can't diagnose depression. I can't diagnose anxiety. I can see it. I can make recommendations for seeing a therapist or a psychologist. Um, but in my role, not just, but I want to help the person um, live, going through the life coaching. Maybe it's a health related thing too, Um, we can talk about those kinds of things. But when it comes to serious mental health diagnoses, that is not for a coach. Um, I may be trauma informed. I am not a trauma therapist. So that's where uh, I think we have to be careful as all coaches, any coach who is working with somebody who has been through a traumatic event. We have to be aware of what's appropriate, know what our lane is, stay in our lane, stay in, the right frame of mind as well. So,
That is such an important piece of it, isn't it? With the coaching. Um, do you see yourself as kind of, I don't know, when I was reading about the work that you're doing, I just think it's so important. I was kind of wishing that I had someone like you when I was in my darkest place, because you really, as you said, it's not, it's not psychotherapy. It's not the same as going to a therapist. But sometimes you just need someone to help you navigate. Sometimes, especially if you've never experienced a death before, things like, y- I mean, the paperwork that you like, just, and when you have lost some, I mean, I know that this is kind of a trivial thing in a big, encompassing piece of grief. But for someone who hasn't lost someone before, um, and you are in the depths of despair, and all of a sudden you have forms and certificate to fill out that are, pages and pages, just that act alone, helping someone navigate and say, okay, so once this is finished, that's all you'll have to do with this. Or, this is part of the process. I don't want you to think that this is anything that you've been at anymore. So that you're not, no, you're not doing a therapy session, but you are giving them kind of um, a bird's eye view from your experiences and expertise
Oh, yeah.
so that they can calm down and kind of breathe through it. I am going to be able to get you. And then with, in terms of therapy, pointing them in that direction, if you see that this is something that's inside of you will. Yeah. And I mean, I think that that is so important ethically for coaching, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yes. And, the fact that coaching is not, uh, uh, oh, we don't have rules and regulations within coaching, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can be a coach. You don't have to be certified. You don't, have to even have experienced anything that you're coaching. You can just call yourself a coach. And so being a an unregulated profession, uh, yeah, we really have to be careful and understand what the ethics are around being a coach. Um, you know, that if you want to call yourself a coach, then know what is going to be appropriate for you as a coach. So,
Right. And I mean, if you want to be a professional, you have like the professional and, the rest to come. I think, do you feel like there's some benefit from coming from a nursing background where things are more regulated, that it just would probably become very normal to you to have that very well delineated line of your role and responsibility versus a therapist or somebody else. Yeah.
uh, oh yes, yes, absolutely. Um, a be, I mean, there were just so many things in as a nurse. If you don't document it, it didn't happen, right? Oh, um, we have our policies and procedures that we look at almost on a daily basis. How are we supposed to do, this skill or what, um, sometimes we even have scripts to go along with, um, for how to handle a particular situation. And so, yes, I'm thankful that I went to a coaching training course where I could get certified because now I have the scripts. So if I do feel like I'm stuck in something, then I can go back and be like, okay, this is how somebody who has done this many more years than I have, has much more experience than I have. They have figured this out. And I'm so grateful that I have those tools that I can go back and use when needed. So,
So very. Um, so for the grieving, there's a grieving person, and then there's the people who are trying to support.
mm,
So for the people who are trying to support them, because we both know it's, especially if you haven't experienced um, a loss in your own life that is comparable. it can be very difficult to know how to approach people and say the right thing or do the right. What would be three things that you would say to someone who's listening right now and like me, friend, she lost, her sister, her husband, and I just really want to be there for them, but I don't know what would you say?
Um, make yourself available. Uh, understand that that person needs to have boundaries and respect those boundaries.
Yeah.
Um, a friend of mine, her her brother-in-law just recently passed, and so her sister has been coming, to stay at her house when she just can't get, or doesn't want to be at her own house. Um, but everybody's been going to my friend's house. Like all the visitors are going over there. And she said she had somebody at her house until 9 p.m. And she said, I am not used to this. So my first response was, it's okay to set boundaries. Let people know, like, I want you to come over. I want you to support my sister. But by 6 o'clock, you know, it, I'm going to have to kick you out, basically, So,
Yeah.
or just recognize, that some people might be wanting to get to bed early. Um, they just need to do their
What?
yeah, they need their evening routines, those kinds of things need to happen. So being aware of what those boundaries should be. Um, asking what they need, uh, which kind of goes both ways. There's the asking what they need because you just don't know what they need. Um, somebody can get too many deli trays sent to their house, right? Oh, and you can't really freeze deli meat very well, right?
Yeah.
And cheese doesn't usually freeze very well either. Um, so those kinds of things, asking what they need. If you want to bring a meal, say, "Hey, I have some." The best one. I have some lasagna, uh, already made. Can I bring it over tonight? Or even I'm bringing it over tonight. However you want to do it. Um, because and when I say ask them what they need, it's because I recommend that people who are grieving have kind of a little list of what they need so that when people ask, then they can give them an answer. Um, my list included I had a toilet that needed work. So if you know a plumber, I'd love to have them come over. And and I needed because it was fall, so I just needed help getting the like front part of my patio cleaned off. All my plants. I just need them, you know, removed somehow. Um, finally found somebody who would help with the toilet. Never had anybody help with the yard. Um, so yeah, you know, and if you can't help, if you can't, you know, fulfill something on their wish list, think of maybe somebody who can, or come up with another option for them
Yeah.
because you asked what they needed, they told you, and you can't help. So let's find some other way. Oh, I know the other thing. I needed help getting we lived in a condo. And so I just needed help getting it clean. Like I hadn't cleaned in who knows how long because of pro sickness and, just stuff that was going on. I just wanted a clean house. And so a couple of friends went together and um, got me a house cleaning service to come over. And they took care of everything for me. Um, so yeah, so that was my third thing. I always forget about that one. Glad you remember it now.
I was forgetting word. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
what and I mean, it's such a great the list. I just want to circle back on what you said about making a list of what you actually need because you're so overwhelmed with everything and just jotting down a few little things so many people do ask that question and having an answer. 'Cause I remember not having I need I need like what I could never figure it out. I couldn't articulate what I needed. I was just so consumed with everything that was happening.
Yeah.
Um, and then your points about, if they tell you what they want, then you try to figure it out. If not, giving them another option. Um, and sometimes just it's not about the words, right? Sometimes it's just about the present
Yep.
being there.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's okay to show up unannounced. Not all the time.
Yeah.
Show up,
Whatever.
call from the front drive, let them know you're there so that they answer the door.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't answer the door of my house. Like,
Yeah.
you can knock, you can ring the doorbell. I am not answering it. So,
Yeah. I
you know,
never and the ring doorbell, and so yeah, I'm like, yes.
that would
I'm like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain down. How are you? And door.
yeah.
Because some people are, and I am one of those. I'm a very private person, honey. And so someone kind of coming into my space, I would have to be prepared for that, or that would be something that would cause me anxiety. So you're right. You have to understand that individual and what they need. Um, what do you think your husband would say to you there? Um, looking at all the beautiful, beautiful things that you are doing, with what has happened in your life, that anything you would say.
That's hard. Because I have made so many changes in this last year. Uh, I there are times when I think he would be saying, "What are you doing?"
Like anything likes the wood, right?
Or I mean, I say that to myself too, so I wouldn't blame him for it. Um, I think he would be like, "I knew you could do it.
Yeah, yeah,
You could do it."
that's good. That is so good. What's been the most surprising thing that you've learned about yourself through all of this? I mean, what have you discovered that you didn't know?
Uh, the well, I knew that I was an independent person before Carl and I got married. After we got married, it was more of this, I think they could say intra-dependence, where we did depend on each other. We were still individuals, but we did everything together. And so when he died, I I mean, I said this out loud, I don't know how many times. I don't know how to be independent anymore. And it scared to have to figure out life on my own. Um, my brother lived with me for 8 months after Carl died. He was able, like, he just slept on the sofa bed and, he cooked because I had no joy in cooking anymore. Um, and it was uh, in like the 8th month, uh, he went to house sit for some friends. And so that was the first time that I was truly alone since Carl had, as far as like staying the night in the house.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but I did it for a week and I was like, "Oh, I I can do this part." And then a year later, I was leaving my job. I started a business. I sold our condo, bought a house, moved to a new city, um, all in a year's time. And I think right now, it's not even been a year later since I moved. And I'm kind of like, what did I do? I go back to that. How do you um, so yeah, I think I kind of took the little let's be independent thing a little too far too quickly. Um, but I'm here and I'm doing it. And interestingly, my brother has moved back in with me now. He's yeah, that's a whole nother situation. But until he's able to get his own place again. Yeah. So, but we knew it worked, before. So, and I have a room for
Absolutely.
him. So yeah, listen. Yeah, he's not in the sofa bed anymore. He has an actual bed. Um,
But how nice to have that family support in those certain months when you're, because you're right. You can be a very independent individual, but um, still look to your partner for, any partners. And so you kind of go to it together, you ask those questions, you bounce things off each other. So it's a big adjustment.
yeah.
So, um, what is one question, you didn't want to knock me for this one. What is one question you wish I asked you, and how would you have answered?
Oh goodness. Um, let's see. You didn't ask me about moving through the grief and finding love again. Would I be willing to do that?
Okay. So tell me.
Um, I'm ready. Yeah, yeah. I'm tired of being alone. Carl and I were married for 13 years, and I cannot believe that 3 years have passed already. And um, yeah, so I don't know. I miss having that help me, that person, who I can bounce things off of as far as, ideas and somebody to ground me. When I was like, Amber, you need to calm down. Because I can easily fly off the handle. I don't think I've done that yet today. But, just that person who helps me stay chill. That's who it. So, yeah.
And do you feel, I mean, there must have been a moment where you felt like that was never reached that point. Um, and then, all of a sudden you find yourself there. And I say that because I remember thinking about some of the things that it would say to me, like, as you get further down the road, I mean, uh, okay. Or, but when I got further down the road, I was, yeah, I actually am ready.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that where we, kind of heal ourselves from the inside out. And but we do have to do that healing before we
Yep.
find ourselves ready.
Oh, yeah. 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 I mean, I can't imagine, having been seriously serious about somebody else so soon after Carl died. Um, I, it was almost a year before I took off my wedding rings. Um, and now I look at my hand and it's it's so bare and, you know, um, but, it that was just a representation of, the love that we have. And, it's not about the rings, it's about who who those rings represented. Um,
Um, do you encourage your coaching clients to journal?
oh, yes, I do. Uh, it was something that I did not do, and my mom asked me, like, probably within a week after he died, she's like, "Are you gonna be writing all this down?" I said, "No, I don't wanna read it again." Um, but now I'm like, you know, like, I have to keep replaying the stories, so that I do remember them. Uh, and there have been some that I have written down. Um, but for coaching, yes, absolutely. I've actually started a journal, workbook for clients. Uh, and, um, I told my coach, I have my own coach, that I would have it ready for publishing in a couple of weeks. So we'll see. how that goes. Yeah. Yeah, I was supposed to have the website done, like, by Sunday, so it's still in process. Uh, Very close, it's coming, though. And, yeah, but the journaling, absolutely. I've come up with the prompts for 'em, and there's 12 weeks worth of prompts, only 3 prompts per week, just because I don't want people to feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by, you know, um, but yeah, when they're ready for it, it'll be
That's
there.
so beautiful. And it's such a valuable tool because I find there are certain things you think about, and I don't know, this is getting into a larger like conversation, I suppose, but there's certain things that you think about when you are in despair. Um, Certain wisdoms are revealed to you. Um, like right, in what really matters, and that's always why I find journaling for me because I'm able to capture it, and write it down. One of the things that, I use with my grief is the letter writing to the person,
Mm,
um, from the person who you love. And I also, did letter writing, to God from God.
mm,
And it was an exercise actually that was shared to me by our neighbor who was, a minister. And he said, why can't we write the letter that God would write you? We're all surrounded by the Holy Spirit. And so, why wouldn't you be able to write what the response would be? And it took me a few days, um, and I needed a bucket by the side of my desk because I cried so many tears. Um, but at the end of it, I was like, hey, yeah, I do think that's what you just said to me. I really do. It was so healing. Have you tried letter writing, or would you work
uh,
it?
no, I don't I mean, I have not tried it. Yeah, it's something I could see doing. I did start doing some journaling last year, a year ago.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, some of these things have come out in that I it's been a while since I've written in it. I think about it every so often. It's sitting here on my desk somewhere.
Or
But yeah, you know, it is healing. It's something that, when we are not just saying our words, but also writing them and we can see them,
Mhm.
there is there is power. Um, I do believe that.
and even from one of applying science to it, us
Mm,
to um, the actual act of writing, it
yep,
changes your immune pathway.
yep,
Writing it down, it's almost like not like a true affirmation, but it creates that mindset as you are crafting the message you're doing. Um, so yeah, I mean, journaling for me has been helpful, and it sounds like with the prompts and the book that you are creating, you have applying so much as well. Um, so I have used gratitude in my grief journey. I created this free focus on new thing,
mm,
and I started looking for gratitude. Very dark days and called it just one little thing because some days I could only find just one little thing.
mhm,
And we used that practice with my son who was 12 at the time because he deserved a happy life and we had to figure this out. Thank God for counseling and a whole bunch of other stuff that he threw at it. But we would look at things that we were thankful for that day. And that kind of tethered us to the present moment. So we weren't regretting anything from the past. We weren't worrying about the future. We were just right there, right now, and we were okay.
mhm,
And so, for example, it could be anything from, I remember I went to a Harry Potter movie with my son, just, trying to do happy things. And he didn't notice that I had to step out and go to the bathroom to have a big cry. And I was thankful that he didn't notice that on our date night that we were going to this movie, that I was in a heap and soul. Um, and he would be thankful that he had a good name at school because, you know, maybe somebody didn't bring it up because at his age, developmentally, that is, he just wanted to be a. So, what do you think?
Today, I am thankful that there are these flowers that are right next to me. They remind me of my friend who sent them on what would have been our 16th wedding anniversary. Um, so it's been 11 days and they're still sitting here. So they're starting to wear out, but but they're beautiful sunflowers and they've just been such a bright spot in what has been a very stressful season right now. And so, yeah, I'm thankful that
Yeah.
thought about me like that. So,
Yeah, somebody wanted to send you that bill.
yeah.
That's excellent. Amber, for people who want to find you in your work, can you just give us all of the information? And for somebody who thinks they might need it, like, um, give us some examples for people to, can you put, just tell us how would you find you and the kind of person that you.
Okay. The easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. And I have all my nursing credentials after my name because there's so many Amber Williamses out there. So instead, uh, I think you can also use my uh, oh tag or whatever they call it, Amber Williams 09 would be
Okay.
with my link there. And I am Amber Williams, MSN, RN, OCN. And uh, that's how you'll find me there. And my website is thegoldengraph.com. And so uh, see if I can spell it right, GOLDENGRAPH, the golden graph.com.
Well, I'm the origin of that name.
When I decided to start my business, The Golden Graph, I was planning to do writing and photography. And so I did that for a little while. Graph, photography, writing, old typewriters used to be called typographs.
Yes.
And yeah, so it just fit. Well, then when I just decided to change to do coaching, I stuck with it because um golden is like the golden hour. Uh, that's where that part came from. Photography, it's a big, you know, thing. That's when you want to take the best pictures. But in nursing, in health, the golden hour is that um, time when a patient has had a stroke um, to when they need to get their medications. And so it's that uh, perfect hour, I guess,
Yeah.
to get the help that you need. And so that's where I am with the coaching. I want you to
Yeah.
come
Well,
the right time.
well, I asked you the significance.
Yeah,
That's
thank you. Thank you. And then graph is just charting your course. You know, let's chart it and get you on
yeah.
the right course.
And I think too, for all of our listeners out here is to make peace with the fact there's no straight line through this. It's not straight. It is zipping around every which way.
Mm,
And it's okay for you to ask for help. And there are wonderful people like Amber in this world who are there and ready to do so. So I thank you so much, Amber, for coming on the show and for talking about, being so generous with your own personal grief, but then using what has happened to you in your life to help others. I just think that that is such a beautiful purpose that you've taken from your pain.
Thank you. Yeah, it's um, you know, I I don't want to hold it into myself. I feel like I've learned a lot of lessons, and I this is how I get to help people through, like I said, the pain to purpose, and
Yeah,
this is my purpose now. So yeah,
that's
thank you, Sally, for having me here. It's been good.
thank you so much. It's been great. Okay, buddy. I will see you in the next episode. And thank you to Amber Williams. Make sure you check her out on LinkedIn and watch for her journal coming out. That guided journal. I think that that's going to be such a great help to so many people. Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.